there was a new Twitter space with Brad Garlinghouse, Marcus Infanger, and so many more talking about several different items that we need to discuss. They talk about the beginning of Ripple. They talk about the use case around XRP, as well as Brad Garlinghouse admits that he's had multiple conversations with Trump about a XRP being used as a strategic reserve. You have to listen to all of this. Let's start here. But man, this is going to be a great video. Stay tuned. Here, let's go.
And how has that evolved today?
So, it is, coming up on my 10-year anniversary. And by coincidence, I had breakfast this morning with the gentleman who ran engineering in the earliest days of Ripple, guy named Chris Kanaan, who's an all-star. And we spent some time reminiscing. And look, for me, joining Ripple, I think a lot of people want to be a part of putting their own dent in the universe and whatever that looks like. It's a kind of quote from Steve Jobs years back. And the vision behind Ripple, and first meeting with Chris Larson, one of our co-founders, the vision around an internet of value is it resonated with me deeply. And, it was one of these things where you're like, okay, this makes sense. It makes the world a better place. And the challenge is, of course, when you talk about these big, impactful visions, is where do you start? Like, how do you get step one? And I've used the comparison of, every marathon, takes a first step. And the challenge is like getting the momentum moving in the right direction. And I think one thing I talked about over breakfast is like the momentum now is stronger than it's ever been. And I think Ripple, as well as the XRP community, is in a stronger place than we've ever been. Look, I think everybody has felt the frustration, and I certainly chief amongst them, of the headwinds. But, look, from a whole bunch of different ways, I find that we're in this just unbelievable, powerful spot now. And 2025 really could be an amazing year. And I mean that. We talked yesterday about some of the new licenses we have. We have obviously invested a lot globally in licensing. We have over 60 licenses around the world. We're very focused in 2025 on some of the real world asset tokenization. We announced Ripple and Ondo Finance are working together around tokenized US treasuries and bringing those to the XRP ledger.
There's a video that I did today about what he just said, a partnership with Ondo. BlackRock is connected into that as well. That video will come out before this video. So if you want to learn more about that, watch the previous video on my channel.
I just think that, again, back to my macro point, people are still underestimating how, when the largest economy in the world shifts from negative to positive, how that's going to change some of these things. And, through a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill, Ripple finds ourselves in a really good position in that regard. And I think that certainly is catalyzing and positive for the whole XRP community.
The momentum has never been better, is what Brad Garlinghouse just said. Let's go ahead and listen to this one. It says confirmed U.S. strategic reserve, but really this conversation is about RLUSD. So it's 2 minutes, and then we're going to get to the clip of Brad talking with Trump. That's a really great clip you need to listen to.
The different use cases between RLUSD and XRP. Maybe can you double click there and explain or summarize how do you see different individual use cases with one and the other?
Yeah. First of all, I think this is important to understand the difference, because some misinformation, as again, back to the tribalism point, some people I think misinterpreted our view. We remain completely committed to the XRP ecosystem for a whole bunch of reasons. It's an incredibly efficient blockchain, and obviously we own a lot of XRP. We are totally committed. As a reminder, XRP is the native token on the XRP ledger. It's required for gas, reserves, accounts ledger, but simply put, XRP is needed to use the XRP ledger. For Ripple and how we use it in our go-to-market as a cross-border payments, we use it as a bridge asset. It's very, very, very fast and nearly free for kind of per transaction basis. And we use it globally, and where currency conversions are less popular, if there's less liquidity, and that way it can complement a stablecoin. So moving to the other side, Ripple has used stablecoins for years, and we were using Tether, we were using USDC. And, as time went by, we kind of asked ourselves, well, given how at one point we said publicly, we were minting 20% of all USDC. And so we kind of asked ourselves, well, wait a minute, could we participate in this market? And I think, while we probably will still use other technologies at various points, I think we felt like there's a real role for us to play here. And look, stablecoins are required for on-chain payments. And as more and more assets get tokenized on the XRP ledger, I think stablecoins are going to be required. And that's partly evidenced even by the Ondo announcement from earlier today.
Well,
all right, guys, listen, stablecoins are going to play a crucial role across the world as we move from the regular traditional finance into DLT-based blockchain finance. All right. And Brad just admitted it, right? Almost 20% of all USDT was being minted by Ripple themselves because all of their customers need different things, right? And a stable coin is probably, it could be situational, the best utility for that payment, right? Maybe it's not, cross-border, going from one currency to another. They just want to get it there quickly and efficiently. When Brad and his team go into meetings with banks or in central banks, they're all asking about stablecoins. So it makes sense that Ripple launches the most regulated stablecoin on the planet because they know how important it's going to be to the future of crypto. Also, litigation release. Apparently, the civil actions against Ripple have disappeared from the SEC's website. The battle was over long ago. We already won. Now it's only a matter of time before mainstream catches on. XRP was always the chosen one. Stay ahead. And then here's more confirmation of that. And here you go. Brad Garlinghouse admitting that he was definitely talking to Trump about XRP. Listen up.
I'll start by just saying I have spoken directly with the president on some of these things. And it's very clear to me that the president is committed. He understands the value of these technologies. He wants to be the crypto president of the United States. And I think, one of their clear priorities is to undo some of the harmful things the prior administration was doing. You've already seen the kind of rescinding of what's called SAB 121, which is about banks being able to custody crypto. That's a very big deal. I think the momentum, is already there in week one, and I'm optimistic about what we're going to see ahead. On the strategic reserve question specifically, look, I mean, there's almost two questions to think about. One, does it make sense for the U.S. to have a strategic reserve around crypto? And I think that I'm going to leave to the politicians and our elected officials to make a decision on.
Yeah.
If we want to maximize the likelihood of that, I think we want to have as much support for that. And by the way, this idea that somehow I was campaigning against a strategic reserve of crypto or even Bitcoin alone is just false. It's just patently false.
So if you're just catching up here, the Bitcoin community has basically waged war on the XRP community. This was starting out as maybe a Bitcoin strategic reserve, and now it's changed to a crypto strategic reserve, a digital asset strategic reserve. And Bitcoin holders feel like war is upon them. And so they have been attacking me, you, everybody on Twitter, in my comments, everywhere. And I think we need to understand that we don't know what Bitcoin's origins are. If Trump wants to be the crypto president, he's the president of America. If he's going to do that, he's going to help out American companies such as Ripple, Stellar, right? Algorand, Solana. These are American companies that still decided to keep their businesses in the US despite all of these other things coming at them. All right? They held through. So why wouldn't you want to have some of these companies that decided to stay in America, didn't go abroad, right? Look at Ethereum. Ethereum's in Switzerland, not American. I think people just need to grow up and understand that there's enough space for all of us. And I think you're ridiculous if you think Bitcoin is ever going to come close to paying off American debt, right? I did a video on that. It's my highly watched video on the channel. Go watch that. I go over the math of how much money would need to go into Bitcoin to reach even close to paying off America's debt. It's not even feasible, not even close.
I think if the US decides to do this, let's maximize what it means for crypto at large.
Yes.
I think this administration, whatever you may think of their particular policies, they have demonstrated repeatedly they are America first. They want to put US technologies first. They want to put US companies first.
There you go.
Particularly given how US companies have been penalized over the last 4 years. I think they're signaling they want to help those companies. And so look, it's frustrating to see the tribalism kind of come to the fore this past weekend. I think if a crypto strategic reserve exists, I think it only makes sense to diversify beyond just one asset. Look, I have said, and as I tweeted yesterday, I think we should advocate, broadly for the industry. XRP is one of those, as it is inherently global, but there are obviously individuals and companies around the world that are building on the ledger using XRP. And I think that's frankly why we're having an event like today. So, the last thing I'll say about this is, it's interesting to me that a small country like Bhutan has already launched a crypto strategic reserve, and out of the gate, they created a basket. And that wasn't that to me. It's just like, yeah, that makes sense. If you want to diversify risk, any financial advisor would tell you, holding different, kind of a basket of assets is going to reduce risk and makes good sense. And again, from my point of view, if we want to maximize the likelihood of it passing through Congress and getting the president's support, I think it only makes sense to be aware of his politics and the things that he prioritizes. But hopefully we don't spend another round of fighting about that one. I hope my tweet yesterday kind of summarizes how I feel about it.
All right. Also, guys, like I said, I did a video on this earlier. Ondo has connections to BlackRock. And so you're basically linking BlackRock, Ondo, and you're linking the XRP ledger all together with, these are treasuries, 4.16 APY. Treasury market is about $30 trillion in the US alone. Bringing US treasuries on chain is going to increase the value of any chain those treasuries go upon. And you still have Cynthia Loomis, right? I'm sure her inbox, her email, and her phone calls are from Bitcoin Max. He's complaining that, it's now changed from a Bitcoin strategic reserve to a digital asset strategic reserve. And this is what you're listening to. Listen.
So why Bitcoin would make sense as part of our strategic reserves is that we recognize other long-term stores of value and put them in strategic reserve. We have a gold strategic reserve. We have an oil strategic reserve. I think it is fitting that Bitcoin, now that is really digital gold, be included among our reserve assets. So I'm proposing in the Bitcoin Act that we purchase roughly 200,000 Bitcoin a year just by converting money we already have into Bitcoin and hold them for 20 years. If we did that with, say, 5% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist, which is roughly 1 million Bitcoin, we could cut our debt in half in 20 years. And
we can cut our debt in half in 20 years. False. Lies. I'm shocked that nobody's actually done the math on this. Okay. Now, the current US debt is, I'll show you, current US debt clock. Look at this. And listen, we got to be realistic here, right? $36.4 trillion. Okay. In 10 years or 20 years, what do you think this number is going to be? This was actually a 1 or 2 trillion in 2001, right? America went to war, and then we started just printing money beyond, reason. Okay. It took 23 or 24 years to get to this point. So add another 20 years, you're going to be at 60 trillion, 50 to 60 trillion dollars. Okay. Now, looking at the current price of Bitcoin at $100,002, right? To pay off half of the debt, you're talking about $30 trillion, maybe even $35 trillion by the time we get to 20 years from now, right? You're going to need, I did the math on this, $36 trillion, we'll just use that number, is a 360x from Bitcoin's current place. You would need $36 million per Bitcoin, 360x, and you would need a market cap of 756 trillion just for Bitcoin alone. To do what she says is easy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not possible. There's not enough money in the world that can go into Bitcoin. The reason that something like XRP or XLM or HBAR can get to an extremely high price is because you can tokenize stocks, bonds, derivatives, treasuries, right? Treasury bonds, different kind of corporate bonds, debt, real estate. That's the value that will come on chain, hundreds of trillions at a time. And that is what will send XRP, and the rest of these to utility values. But Bitcoin, there's not enough money in the world to get Bitcoin to a place that she's talking about. And it's sad that this is a US senator that can't do basic math, right? Or she's refusing to look at the real numbers behind that. That's even worse, right? Because now you just feel lied to. I kind of do. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Also, if you made it this far, please hit like. I appreciate you. Latest NVIDIA slumps, 17%. Look at Ripple payments, $11 billion in valuation. Gotta love that. Still number one, baby. Boom. I'll just play this, right? We know the world's banking system is moving to blockchain. We know some of the biggest banks in the world are choosing to work with Ripple and XRP. They understand the technology is a game changer, not only for their bank, but for their customers, which is vitally important. A bank isn't a bank unless you have customers, and they want to keep their customers happy. And if the biggest banks in the world do not make this shift, other banks will do it, and they will lose customers if they don't go to this new system. That is facts. Listen up.
I'm going to take you through my notes from the day. It's quite loud in here, so I apologize. First thing is I met with Brad Garlinghouse face-to-face, and Brad was so confident. He's got an air of confidence about him that's unbelievable. I met Brad first in 2019 back in Singapore, and he's even more confident today than he was back then. He made it clear that they're ready to settle with the SEC as long as they can get clarity on XRP. I asked him if American companies were waiting on the sidelines to jump in the game once clarity happens, and he said absolutely. And he specifically said Bank of America. Bank of America is a huge partner of Ripple, and he said Bank of America stands to gain really big when the settlement happens, because they're going to have a huge competitive advantage over their competitors by using ODL in the marketplace. So Brad is very, very bullish. When asked what motivates Brad every day, Brad just said, I want to put a dent in the universe. We've heard that from Naveen Gupta, and Brad has the same philosophy. So that was fantastic.
They want to put a dent in the universe. They are going to put a dent in the universe. The only question you need to ask yourself is, are you coming along for the ride? I'll see you next time. I've been Crypto Sensei. Aloha. Thank you for your support.